Well, I'm glad I never tried to play it then. It is kind of a shame how like Nintendo does try really hard to create these new IPs, but they just never stick. And then instead of trying to improve or focus on IPs that like are really good, like Smash Ultimate or like just creating more DLC for those, they're like, well, it's time to move on to other ventures. Like Animal Crossing, I think Animal Crossing would have been fantastic if they kept on with that. But apparently, I actually watched a video that apparently Nintendo now has four different development divisions in house, and the same team that works on Animal Crossing also works on Splatoon 3. And that's kind of their focus is those two games. So when they were done with Animal Crossing, they switched their resources to Splatoon 3. So
Nintendo has enough money to get more studios than that. There's no excuse.
I don't know. I think that's too simple of an answer. Like,
I think it's a pretty truthful answer.
well, the thing is that that's kind of assuming they have enough money to create another studio, right?
They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They have the money.
I mean, just being a multi-billion-dollar company doesn't mean you don't have multi-billion dollars in expenses. Just saying you have the money doesn't necessarily mean you actually have them. Just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean you spend a lot of
Right.
money.
So if you don't actually have the money, doesn't mean you actually have the money. That's what
Yeah,
you said.
that's actually really true. It's actually really it when you
If you
when you
don't,
start working big business, it's like this is a small thing that people don't understand. There's a difference between wealth and income. Okay, income is the amount of actual cash money you make in, like dollars amount. Wealth is the amount of assets that you have. So like a house. So like you can own a house and it be $300,000 worth of assets, right? But you can't necessarily sell a house right away. And what a lot of people don't realize is that when you have a person that's worth billions of dollars or a company that's worth billions of dollars, that doesn't necessarily mean it's just pure cash that they can just spend. A lot of that is invested into projects or into buildings or into other things that you can't just transfer from one aspect to another aspect instantaneously.
um,
So, and it's very distinct and important because a lot of the internet they instantly attack without knowing that, and it actually changes quite a bit.
regardless, there are companies much smaller than Nintendo. What? Rin, what are you saying?
That you have no idea that you have no idea how businesses work like at all.
What do you mean?
I'm not entirely.
What? What was that, Cap?
I'm trying to think, but I'm also fighting Majora, so I'm trying to formulate what my thoughts are. But it's
There is a pause button.
well, I guess I guess, how do you think businesses work, uh, Arclight?
He didn't have to. He chose to. There's a difference. I didn't ask him to.
That's irrelevant. The fact is that you didn't know. I think he's just. I think he's calling out the fact that like, I corrected that point. Um. So. Again, I don't know what Arclight knows, so I don't want to say he's sheltered. On the flip side, I also don't know what Nintendo does or what they're going through. So. A lot of big businesses I don't know. So. And honestly, like, to be fair, the stuff that I explained, a lot of people get wrong too. So people who
to be honest,
are more
you don't
aware
know
as
how
well.
much Nintendo makes or has either.
Nintendo has what?
You don't know how much money Nintendo has either.
I don't either. But that's a.
I still believe they have a ton of money already. If they didn't have a ton of money, they wouldn't be able to support a business like they have.
That's very iffy. There's a lot of workarounds you can do as you start getting bigger and bigger. There's a lot of ways you can support a business without just saying I make a lot of money, right? Like some businesses are supported solely on stocks, right? And what are stocks? Stocks are just investments from individuals who think that the company is going to do well, not so much based on the fact that the company will actually do well. So there's a lot of ways to. Yeah. And Rin is saying, do you know how much games cost to create these days, Arclight? Man hours, equipment, software. That's actually an interesting.
There are people. That depends on the game development studio. As to
Well,
be
no,
fair,
see that's true, but see that's an interesting correlation. It's kind of a
because
reverse.
there are studios that are literally just like 1 to 5 people that make games just fine, and I doubt they spend millions of dollars.
Let me finish what I was saying. Like what you say is true, but like think about it like this: the quality of game that studio is doing for 1 to 5 people never matches the quality of a AAA studio. Like look at God of War Ragnarok. They have actors, they have voice actors, they have mocap equipment. They've got they have, and then not only that, they have then they have to develop it to fighting styles, and they create story writers, storylines, side quests. Like it's an interesting correlation how the more advanced technology gets, the more costly games get, which is kind of the reverse of how easily it is.
I am aware that games cost millions of dollars. I'm aware that's what you're trying to get at.
Well, no, it's not. It's not so much that. I think it's not so much being aware of that. I think the point that I'm more hitting on is the fact that yes, you can have a studio that of 1 to 5 people making a game, but usually it's like going to be like a 8-bit or 16-bit game that is short or is a phone game that doesn't match the quality of what a AAA title does. So that takes years of planning and like not even just of planning of the game, but of planning how to market it too, like when to release it, release times. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So the smaller the studio, the smaller the game, essentially. Or if not smaller the game, the longer it takes to make the game on par. And essentially, but that makes gaming interesting because let's deep dive into gaming. So let me get this point out because gaming is so weird, right? And it's been a thought on my mind lately because you have these AAA studios who can invest millions of dollars into a game that looks beautiful, and then you can have a developer create a game like Flappy Bird, if you remember when that came out, and takes them a day, maybe two, to make and make just as much and almost half the cost. Like not even half the cost, pennies, cents, just on a whim. Um, and so it just makes gaming real. Like gaming is probably one of the most competitive, like probably the most competitive industry in the entire world right now, just because of the amount of access that you have to do. So if I were to at that point with the competitiveness, like even if so so I guess when it comes to competitiveness, I think if Nintendo had the money to make another studio, either A, they would, or B, they are buffing the studios that they have so that they can improve the quality of their games. Because that's really the only thing Nintendo has is their IP. Link, Zelda, that's what keeps them alive. Their quality is what keeps them alive. Um, so because gaming companies can't afford to make mistakes like they used to. It's not so much. It hurts a lot more than what it did before. Now I do want to do a small defense. I do want to do a small defense in Arclight's point. Just because there is a possibility that they might have a lot of money, right? The ability to do that. Um, the fact that remains is that we honestly just don't know. Considering the gaming scape, considering I guess the way a business might work, it's most likely it probably isn't. But at the same time, it's not like we really know what Nintendo's plans are. They make stupid decisions. Um, they're not infallible. Who knows? Maybe a lot of their resources are trying to come out with the next gen console, right? So they may have four game development studios, but then they might have a fifth or sixth console development studio that is kept really under wraps and under the radar. So, you know, like it's just hard to say. Or and Ren says, or they are buying new animation studios to make movies. Look, I'm gonna say something. That's a smart move on their part, because that's going to be a cash cow for them, and that's going to compete with Sony's attempt at making movies. Um, and what a cash cow is that it's basically a really solid investment into.
I know what a cash cow is.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's a smart move considering they need Nintendo needs a safe influx of cash, basically, to be able to continue making games. So, um, at their quality, it's just they have to do it because they can't really afford to increase the price of the game because no one will buy it. $60 seems to be the max. They don't seem to like doing DLC like other people do. Um, so they haven't really gone to the dark side. They have a theme park, which I don't know how it's doing, but it seems to be doing pretty well. I thought that was a good move too. I don't know. Hey, what if we did this? But what if we decided to take a moment to look at Nintendo's numbers? Just analyze the numbers and be more clear about like what they're making, what they're doing. I know it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but it's what I went to school for, so I can help break it down a little bit. I'm very rusty, but that doesn't mean I don't know. Ren, you're not holding your breath because Nintendo's Nintendo. I just want to say that with the Mario movie looks fantastic. And even despite the fact that Chris Pratt doesn't sound like Mario, like I still think it's going to be, it still looks beautiful, and the fact that it looks beautiful is good enough for me. I'm not expecting a work of art like Shakespeare, so I'm expecting a very classic Bowser gets the Power Star, steals the princess, Mario saves the day, maybe with some jokes in there. I don't want it to be like. It doesn't need to be deep or fancy. Just a very simple story. I'll be very happy with that.
Okay. Here's something though.
Okay.
Let's look at EA for a second.
Mm-hmm.
EA has gives millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to their CEOs and other positions. So instead of putting that money towards other stuff, if Nintendo has fared better in the video game industry than EA, wouldn't they also have the money to get another studio? Is what I'm getting at.
I guess that depends on how you divvy your costs. Like, there's one point I want to
make.
And
also, I want to add, I know games cost millions, up to like 15, 30, 50 million to make. I know that.
Okay.
So don't act like I don't know that either. Just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah. All right. So the two main points is CEOs possibly making a lot of money, which I think is somewhat a fair point, but I guess because so what if the CEOs or the higher ranks decided, okay, instead of paying us a lot of money, let's instead revert that money to the rest of the games. The best example I guess I have to somewhat counteract that is that Ben and Jerry's back in the day, they actually tried to put a cap on how much their CEO could make. So they put at first a $300,000 cap, and when they finally got the CEO wasn't very good, and so they eventually had to keep Ben and Jerry's eventually had to keep amping up the price to get a good CEO essentially. So I think that I don't think I can go much deeper into that because I think that's a different that delves more into like I guess business and political arguments about how much should CEOs be made and like billionaires make too much. But I do think that there is some truth to the matter of like CEOs are in charge of companies that have many moving parts that also are in charge of a lot of people, of millions of dollars flowing with every decision. So you do want a CEO who is good. It can't just be anybody, and to be a good CEO, it does require a level of experience. So it's kind of like the quarterback.
Here's the thing though, EA for example, their CEOs already made 30, 40, hell, 500 million, some of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then they're getting millions of dollars of bonuses extra bonuses on top of that.
Right. And again, like that's something that's what EA wants to do, and they're still making money despite that. And again, like
that's what I mean though. EA has the money to do that. Why doesn't Nintendo have the money to get another gaming division? EA could have easily done it by now if they wanted to.
I mean, again, like maybe they just wanted to. Well, this kind of ties into the second point: is that sometimes gaming companies aren't always as fruitful as they seem. like when the Wii U came out, they actually lost so much money that the lead executives actually had to issue a formal apology to the shareholders, and they actually took a pay cut to help make sure that the business survived. So I guess to go on top of that is that the entertainment industry is very fluid, because again, poor decisions can instantly make or break your company very fast. So I think there is a point in saying like, yeah, maybe they make too much, but it can instantly flip to where maybe they're going bankrupt. Like the Wii U, that was a span that happened almost overnight, right? So I think it's not. I don't think it's a bad point. I don't think it's as strong a point as you think it is. Um, all right, Ren. They are constantly expanding. Just because they aren't doing what you want doesn't mean they aren't doing something. I think that's a fair point to think about. Like, just because they aren't focusing on games, they're focusing on other divisions. I don't necessarily think that makes Nintendo bad.
But wasn't it only Iwata that did that?
Also, there was an exec that did that cap. Was there just one exec?
The cut? I could swear that was just Iwata.
Yeah. I kind of want to verify that. I mean, it's like my curiosity. Nintendo. So the first article that pops up is from BBC from 2014. It specifically says Nintendo's top executives, and then it specifically says that Iwata would do it. Iwata would take a 50% cut, and other executives will see a reduction of 20 to 30%. So it wasn't just Iwata. Iwata took the biggest cut, but other top executives also took a cut. So,
by the way, Bonko Pikachu.
And Iwata probably announced it because he was the president of Nintendo at the time. So it just made sense that he made the formal announcement. It wouldn't have made sense that other people, like, he didn't have to say that who else was doing it and how many. So we know that more than one. It was more than just Iwata, but we don't know how many people did, and he didn't have to say more than that. Oh, you guys got me wondering.
You gotta remember, everything I have learned over the years has been from the internet, and that was it. So I can only go off what I've heard. So, and I'm aware that what you hear isn't off the internet isn't always correct.
Yeah. One second. See, you got me. You got me curious now. Okay, we're going to start. We're going to do some research into this. Since I've beaten the game already, I've got some free time. Why not?